What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AZ Sports Podcast. And we got a lot to talk about. It was a busy weekend of Arizona sports. Before I get into that, if you're watching this, please like, comment, subscribe. If you are watching live, please comment in the chat. Love to build a chat community and interact with anyone and everyone who listens to this. So, big news. First of all, we hit 10 subscribers. Hopefully one day there's 3 more zeros after that, or 4. I'm trying to build this thing as big as I can get it and build a community with as many people as passionate or not as passionate. You know, you can be a casual and still hopefully listen to this podcast and enjoy Arizona sports. The goal is for this podcast to cover everything important that's happening in the Arizona professional sports world. Perhaps we'll delve into some local college sports as well. But for right now, what I have time for and what I want to watch the most is the Cardinals, the Suns, and the Diamondbacks. And we can't get enough Diamondbacks right now. We just can't. There's so much happening. And every game, every series is a roller coaster that we're just along for the ride. And it's going to be a fun September. It might be a devastating September yet again, but it's going to be fun to see how this team goes. So, and if you aren't listening to this live, you can always go back and listen to this in podcast format or on YouTube format. I post a quicker, better edit on YouTube and in podcast form as well, taking out a lot of long pauses or the mess ups, but I like going live because this is how you get better. And I am not afraid to show my mistakes. And so I'm going to go live, but I'll also put out more polished forms of content as well. And as this channel has started to grow a little bit more, I do take clips from these live streams and put them out. That's kind of how it's designed, where I'll record a whole podcast and then I'll take each team that I talk about or each segment that I do and put that out in a shorter format. So if you see those videos and you're like, hey, I'm hearing the same thing twice, well, it's true because I'm just taking what goes on in this live stream, splicing it up a little bit, making it a little bit more polished, and then putting it out in shorter format to hopefully, gain more views on those because people are looking specifically for what's happening with Ketel Marte, what's happening with Matt Ishbia, what's going on with different teams specifically. And I'm hoping to start to, incorporate a little more cross-team content, whether it's top 5 athletes right now, top 5 Arizona athletes of all time. I'm going to try and start incorporating more of that into these shows as well. And we may even be looking at going to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast schedule and making these episodes a little bit shorter, but just as good. So with that being said, let's get into the first segment. And as always, with the Diamondbacks being in a playoff hunt, we're going to talk about them first until there's actual legitimate football to talk about. The Arizona Diamondbacks rally to defeat the Cincinnati Reds on Sunday, putting them just 2 games back of the San Diego Padres in the National League wildcard race. But before we get to that, we have to talk Ketel Marte because this story refuses to die. And there's a few main contributors. One, the Arizona Diamondbacks won't let this story die. And the Arizona Diamondbacks made this a big deal in the first place. 2, Ketel Marte, obviously. He didn't show up for work a week ago. He went home on a flight from Boston. No one really knew where he was. He did not communicate with the Diamondbacks. 3, he meets with Torey Lovullo and Mike Hazen with his agent, is put on the 15-day IL. It's not backdated. And then he goes out to Talking Stick Resort Casino Friday night while the Diamondbacks are pouring it on the Cincinnati Reds to win the first game of the series. So, and since then, there's been some snippets that have come out from that conversation. Torey Lovullo said that he felt betrayed by the Ketel Marte situation. Derek Hall called it a mystery on Thursday before the Diamondbacks met with Ketel Marte. Players in the clubhouse ranged anywhere from Ketel's been a good teammate to me to Kevin Ginkel saying that the Diamondbacks are frustrated and that there's going to have to be an explanation or an apology or both. But this is I've covered all the facts before on different podcast episodes. So if you're curious about the full backstory of what happened in 2024 and 2025 and now in 2026, that stuff's already out there. So let me tell you what I think happened based on all the information that we've gotten since the incident occurred on Monday and since his meeting with Torey Lovullo and Mike Hazen on Friday. So here's what I think happened. Ketel Marte hurt his knee earlier in the Braves series, and I believe had injured it or tweaked it, whatever you want to say, even a few games prior to that. It's been pretty clear that Ketel has been playing through stuff this season a lot more than he has in the past. And so I think Ketel wanted the day off for the first game of the series in Boston. The problem is that Nolan Arenado also needed a day off, and the Diamondbacks did not want to put him on the injured list. And the reason why that was a big issue is because that's your starting second baseman and your starting third baseman both wanting to take a rest day. But that leaves your roster pretty thin. That's two position players on the bench that you can't go to. And what if Tim Tawa or Ildemaro Vargas get injured? Then you can't bring in Jose Fernandez, who is on the taxi squad. You can't bring him in during the middle of the game. You have to wait until after the game to put someone on IL to bring in a guy like Jose Fernandez, who, by the way, helped them win the Boston series and contributed in the Red series. So he's been playing great. So I think there's that kind of lead up where Ketel and Nolan Arenado both need an off day probably. And Torey Lovullo says, "Hey, Ketel, I know you probably need an off day. I know your knee's bothering with you. We're going to put you at DH. You're not going to have to do much tonight." And Ketel says, "No, I can't DH tonight." And then he and Torey have a falling out. And so Ketel's personal issue, I guess, for lack of a better word, is that he and the manager or he in the front office, whoever is saying, "Hey, Ketel, we need you to play today." And he says, "Sorry, guys, I can't play." And so maybe the personal issue was just he was upset. He felt maybe Ketel Marte felt betrayed by Torey Lovullo. Anyway, I think if from what we know and from what others and reporters who actually have sources, I don't have any sources. This is just information that I get from, listening to Jack Summers, reading Nick Picoro, and on all of those guys, looking at Gambo tweets and watching the clips that come out from Arizona sports radio. So I know just as much as the next fan, but from what I can put together, the puzzle pieces that I'm putting together, it's that Ketel Marte was frustrated with Torey Lovullo, didn't want to go to work that day. So in layman's terms, Torey Lovullo was beefing with his boss and did not want to go to work. Now, maybe that's putting it a little too simply, but if what I'm guessing right now, not reporting, just kind of putting the pieces together, what I'm guessing is that Torey Lovullo and Ketel Marte had a disagreement. Ketel Marte said, "Hey, I'm the star player. You need to listen to me." And so he put his foot down and said, "I'm not going to the game, and I'm also not responding to any of your texts." Because if it was, I think, because here's the thing is, if it was something not related to baseball, I don't see why the Diamondbacks would have any problem putting Ketel Marte on this restricted list. with pay, backdate his injury or his injury list stint back to Monday. And then, if he's healthy in 10 to 12 days instead of the full 15, he'll be ready to go. Right. But I think the beef and the personal issue was Ketel had a personal issue with Torey Lovullo. Basically just was frustrated and upset and just didn't go to work today, and then didn't go to work that day, and then didn't respond to any team personnel about this situation because he was mad at Torey Lovullo. If it wasn't a baseball related thing, then why wouldn't Ketel have responded to the text he was getting from Derek Hall or Torey Lovullo? There was a rumor that went out that he wasn't responding to teammates either. Gabriel Moreno said that wasn't true. But if I had to guess, he got quite a few messages. And if no one knew what was going on, then that means Ketel wasn't necessarily texting back, or if he wasn't texting back in much detail. Or if he was texting back in detail, then those messages and what was said has definitely not been leaked or reported yet. So from what I can gather, it was a baseball issue. And then he decided, hey, you know what? Like, after the game, he said, I'm just going to go home to Arizona and get it checked out. And then we can just go from there because this situation is a huge mess, right? And then Diamondbacks have some time to cool off. They go meet with Marte. Torey says that they both said things that they needed to get off their chest. Which I can, from what I think Torey's saying is that, hey, Ketel and I had a disagreement. I felt betrayed. Ketel felt some type of way about me as in Torey Lovullo, and we tried to squash it in that meeting. And then I think that gets squashed. And then what happens next Friday night is after Ketel Marte is on the IL, he's doing his rehab. Then he goes out, probably the closest nice casino to his house. He goes out and has a night. And here's the thing. Baseball players, if they're on the injured list, they usually get their work done early, and then they're free to do what they want at night. It's not a weird thing that Ketel Marte wasn't at the ballpark. And it's probably good that he wasn't at the ballpark, because I feel like with how this situation has been, I feel like him being in the locker room so close to the incident would probably only increase tension and increase the drama of this situation. So no need for him to be at Chase Field watching his team against the Reds. Or if he is there, maybe he's up in a suite or in a box, or, someplace away from cameras and the team. Right. That's maybe best case scenario. Or he just goes home, watches the game at home. You're hoping for a bunch of things. And then I don't know if it was just incredibly bad PR judgment, if he was sending a message, if he just doesn't care. But Ketel Marte went to the casino, a very public place, while the team was playing, and, was enjoying himself at the casino. And there's nothing wrong with a player in his free time enjoying himself at the casino. Now, could I question the judgment of that decision to say, hey, this whole story, like, this has been front page news in Arizona for sure for the last week. And, outside of the corrupt Dodgers and maybe the Philadelphia Phillies insane win streak that they're on, I'm like the second or third biggest story in sports. I've kind of, sullied the good name of Ketel Marte. Definitely within baseball circles, I'm sure his trade value is as low as it's ever been, and that's not just because he's had a down year where he's, I think he's been an 800 or above OPS hitter pretty much every season since 2020. So, yes, he's having a down year at the plate. He has been playing lots of baseball games, so that's been good to see. But yeah, when my name is hot in the streets right now, to go out into public and just to, add more gasoline onto the fire, optically, it's not a good look, whatever the intention was. Whatever the intention was, it's optically not a good look for Marte. I feel like you'd want to, at least let things die down for a couple days. Or if you're going to go to the casino, go to the casino right after the Diamondbacks game, right before. I mean, maybe he just, went there from 5 to 8 and he left the casino like right after the Diamondbacks game started. I have no idea. I have no idea what Marte. I don't know all the details of Marte's happenings at the casino. And Torey Lovullo said after the game, if Marte is at work the next day, then we don't have a problem. And honestly, that's about the only approach you can take as a manager who seems to be right in Ketel Marte's crosshairs. If you want Ketel Marte to come back and finish the season strong and be engaged and feel supported, I think you have to support him right now, even if he puts you in a difficult situation like that. Now, obviously, there's Ketel liking a post that says he doesn't want to play for the Diamondbacks anymore. Maybe they've come to an agreement that Ketel, come back, play out the rest of the season. We'll try and get you traded to your preferred destination during the offseason. Obviously, Marte can veto any team he chooses now that he has 10 years of experience in the MLB. It's just frustrating because it felt like Friday afternoon the story was going to die down. We could finally put it to bed for a week. Ketel Marte stays out of the spotlight, but during an enjoyable blowout win against the Reds, if you looked on Twitter and you saw Marte at the casino, you just rolled your eyes and went, "Oh, this story's not going to die because the parties involved aren't going to let it die." Now, credit to the Diamondbacks for diffusing that part pretty quickly, but again, it'll get the fans riled up. And I've seen some takes all over the place on this on Twitter. Someone said that they blame the Arizona media if Ketel Marte, maybe Ketel Marte doesn't want to play for the Diamondbacks anymore because of the media. One, if that's the case and you feel like the Arizona media has run Ketel Marte out of town, then honestly, that's fine. Because if a guy is going to be that hurt by what the media is saying about him, I'm okay if that guy gets run out of town. That doesn't show the most mental toughness or mental maturity if you want to leave town because of the media. Two, Arizona media, I don't feel like is that tough on Marte. Like Marte has definitely had a lot of defenders. Now you can point to Gambo, who seems to be on the attack. Whoever his sources are really just pile dirt on top of Ketel Marte. That's for sure. But they're definitely, you listen to the PHNX guys and Derek Montilla and Damon Dog. Those guys have defended Marte for months and wanted to keep him. And there were other people who said that Ketel Marte should be traded. He's definitely polarizing. He's a fan favorite, and he's also another spectrum of fans. He's probably their least favorite player. I mean, if you can't tell, like Ketel Marte right there, that's him. That's him right there. Marte and Carroll quickly became my two favorite players, honestly, in all of Arizona sports outside of Devin Booker. Right? Happy Kobe Day. Happy Kobe Day. Happy D-Book's Idol Day. Right? I'll have something for that at the end of the show for sure. Obviously, behind me, are two of the greatest Arizona baseball players of all time. But Ketel Marte, he's right there. Ketel Marte is right there. Like, I want him to be a Diamondback for life. And I know he played a few games with the Mariners, but I want his real career, his entire journey in the game of baseball to be in a Diamondbacks uniform. I want him to finish out this contract, have more 800 OPS seasons, hit 30 home runs, play good defense at second base. I want that for Ketel Marte. I want that to be his story as an Arizona Diamondback. But right now, he's making the story about his, some people call it selfishness, his poor professionalism, maybe a lack of maturity. Those are all things that I've said, that I've thought, that other people have said. That right now, that's the story. I posted a video last week about how Ketel Marte and DeAndre and our similar Arizona sports villains right now, because both of these guys, you can point to specific instances in their career where they've caused their teams to go off the rails, to fall apart. These guys haven't come through in the biggest situations. When their team needed them the most, they weren't there. They weren't there because, I mean, let's face it, if Ketel Marte plays this week, maybe the Diamondbacks get another win in Boston. Maybe the Diamondbacks sweep the Reds, right? Merrill Kelly, Mitch Bratt, Michael Soroka. All those guys had poor pitching performances. I'm not going to put that on Ketel Marte too. I feel like that's just overly piling on. But maybe his bat in the lineup just helps the Diamondbacks stay in some of these games more. Maybe they have better first innings with his bat in the lineup. It's frustrating because the story just refuses to die. It refuses to die. I'm hoping that we can go a week without talking Ketel Marte again. I hope. So let's get to the on the field stuff now, which is first, Diamondbacks beat the Reds on Friday 9-0. It was kind of cathartic, honestly, because of everything that had happened. And we were wondering, like, hey, Diamondbacks lost 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox. We need to come in and hopefully sweep, but at least have a productive series against the Reds. And on Friday, everything went right. Rodriguez threw 5 2/3 scoreless innings. We saw Jordan Lawlar hit his second home run of the season, a 2-run home run. It seemed like he took a minute to get back from returning from injury, but against the Reds on Friday, he kind of broke through that. Diamondbacks looked like they were in full control, and the lifeless Reds maybe weren't going to be that much of a threat for the Diamondbacks for the rest of the series. But that changed because the Reds went on to dominate the rest of the series until the 7th inning in the rubber match on Sunday. But first, on Saturday, the Reds won 11-5. They got to Michael Soroka early, and then Litell came in and gave up a lot of hits and gave up a lot of runs. Now, down 4-0, some people argue we shouldn't have put Litell in that spot. I can go either way. Do I wish the Diamondbacks on Saturday had at least tried to, thrown in a high leverage guy, Ginkel, a Juan Murillo, a Taylor Clark. That's who I was thinking of. Sorry, don't know why I brain farted right there. Like, could they have brought in one of those high leverage guys just to get out of the inning? Hopefully you're only down 4-0 instead of 6-0. Then that puts you in position to then you bring in Litell without inheriting any runners and see if he can hold things down for the next 3 innings and give the Diamondbacks a chance to get back into it offensively. I would have preferred that over just bringing Litell in immediately. I know maybe analytically that's the wrong move. Jack Summers said that at that point in the game, the Diamondbacks only had a 10 to 11% chance to win the ball game. So putting in Litell and just eating the innings, eating innings analytically was the right call there. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I would have preferred a higher leverage guy in that situation, maybe get out of the inning and then bring in Litell, let him get a rhythm without guys on base, and then go from there. The Diamondbacks did not do that, and eventually the Reds won 11-5. It was another decisive blowout loss because with this Diamondbacks team, it's very frustrating. They win a lot of close games, but there have been quite a few of these this year where they just can't get outs, and all of a sudden the lead just escapes them, and they're out of these games early. And as we saw on Sunday, as long as they're within 3 to 4 runs in the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth inning, this team is not out of it because at any point the offense can rally. And we know that this bullpen has been maybe the best part of this Diamondbacks team this season. So if you can get it into a high leverage situation, you know that the bullpen is going to come in and hold teams where they're at for the most part. Like this bullpen that the Diamondbacks have is really great. You look at Juan Murillo and Brandon Garcia and Taylor Clark and Kevin Ginkel and I mean Gerardo Carrillo got called up. Like a lot of these guys have sub-2 ERAs. I know Ginkel's is a little bit higher than that. It's like 3.6 or 3.7, but this is a guy that Torey Lovullo just throws out there every time there are runners on base and says, please get me out of this one, Ginkel. And Ginkel, time and time again, comes through for Lovullo, and he's earned that trust despite some down outings recently in the last month. But we know that this Diamondbacks bullpen is going to be fantastic. And guess what? On Sunday, it was fantastic again because Mitch Bratt only went 3 innings, gave up 3 runs in the 3rd inning. And then it was Gerardo Carrillo came in, Taylor Clark came in, saw Brandon Garcia and Kevin Ginkel at the end. Juan Murillo came in. Like, these guys came in and held the Reds down for the rest of the game, giving the Diamondbacks the opportunity to come back and win this game. It started in the 6th inning when Corbin Carroll tripled and then was knocked in, I believe, on a sacrifice fly by Gabriel Moreno, who unfortunately finally broke his hitting streak, but still walked twice and had a sacrifice fly in this game. So at least he has a 16-game on-base streak now that he can continue to pile up. Hopefully he just gets on base every game for the rest of the season. But it started then. Diamondbacks didn't score for the rest of the inning. We're down 3-1. But then in the 7th inning, it was Tim Tawa. It was Jordan Lawlar got back-to-back hits. James McCann drew a walk. Lars Nootbaar had a ground out RBI to first base, which allowed Tawa to score. And then it was Ildemaro Vargas who slapped a triple on the first pitch of the at-bat to give the Diamondbacks a 4-3 lead. Corbin Carroll then came up, sacrifice fly deep into the outfield, allowing Ildemaro Vargas to score and go up 5-3. And then it was Juan Murillo in the 8th inning. And then Brandon Garcia and Kevin Ginkel combined in the 9th inning to give the Diamondbacks a 5-3 win and win the series. Because if you were watching the game yesterday and the Diamondbacks just looked lifeless again and you were like, man, is this Marte thing eating at them? Are they just losing steam at the end of, are they just at the end of their road? Do they have anything left in the gas tank to go on a run to finish out the next 5 to 6 weeks of the season? It kind of felt like if they were going to lose this series, they had lost the Boston series. They had lost the Rockies series before that. So we were staring, losing 3 out of our last 4 series right in the face, going 7-8 over our last 15 games. We were staring that right in the face, but we came back, we won, and now we're moving forward, hopefully, and possibly one of the biggest series of the season starts tonight against the Chicago Cubs. We're not going to catch them, but anytime you can play teams in the wild card and knock them back makes things much better for you. And the Diamondbacks need to win this series against the Cubs this weekend, this week. Right now it looks like it's going to be Kevin Gausman versus Merrill Kelly. Diamondbacks need a strong performance from Merrill Kelly right now. He has a 5.37 ERA. Diamondbacks need Merrill the mainstay to show up tonight and keep the Diamondbacks in the game. Fortunately, they're going against Kevin Gausman, who's 6-11 and has a 4.58 ERA. So not exactly an ace that the Diamondbacks are facing tonight, but it is a right-handed pitcher who the Diamondbacks have traditionally struggled against this season. So look for Lars Nootbaar to hopefully have a big game. And if he has a big game, then the Diamondbacks should be in a good position to win, so long as Merrill Kelly doesn't give up 5-6 runs in low innings tonight. Game 2, we have a recent acquisition for the Chicago Cubs, Clay Holmes, versus Brandon Pfaadt. Brandon Pfaadt, outside of his performance against Boston, has been lights out since coming back from AAA on June 30th. We know the Brandon Pfaadt story. Hopefully that Red Sox game was just a blip and he continues to get back to attacking the zone, which he did against Boston. I mean, the 3-run home run was a changeup below the zone. So it wasn't exactly like he just served up a meatball middle of the plate either. So hopefully Brandon Pfaadt can continue to shove, and I feel good about the Diamondbacks winning that game. I don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to win the game tonight on Monday against Kevin Gausman. So I feel like we're looking at another Game 3 rubber match where the Diamondbacks are going to have to beat Matthew Boyd, who earned a quality start against Arizona earlier this season, allowing 2 runs in 6 innings. And the Diamondbacks have Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound. Right now, with how this starting rotation looks with Michael Soroka going back to the injured list, you need Eduardo Rodriguez and Brandon Pfaadt to, 1, pitch well, and 2, you have to win the games that they pitch in. If not, it makes it that much harder because you're relying on guys like Mitch Bratt, Merrill Kelly, maybe Jose Cabrera comes back up, maybe Cole Drake comes back up. Maybe they just say, hey, Dre Jameson and Gerardo Carrillo, you're our like tandem starters. We're going to need like 5 innings, 4 to 5 innings between the two of you guys at some point this week. Hopefully the Diamondbacks can get some starting pitchers to play well like Kelly. But ultimately you have to win both the games that Brandon Pfaadt and Eduardo Rodriguez play, because those 2 games are your best chance of winning. It doesn't matter if you're playing the Colorado Rockies or the Milwaukee Brewers right now. Those 2 guys give you the best shot at winning when they're on the mound. So you have to win those games. My prediction, Diamondbacks are taking 2 out of 3 against the Cubs, and then hopefully they can take 3 out of 4 against the Giants this week, maybe even 4 out of 4 games against the Giants this week, and get right back into this wild card picture, which right now, if we look at the wild card picture, Fangraphs gives the Diamondbacks a 31.5% chance, and Baseball Reference gives the Diamondbacks about a 37% chance to make the playoffs right now. The Phillies are at like 70-something percent, and the Padres are around 63 to 64%. So it's a 3-horse race for those final 2 spots right now. The Marlins are a couple games back of the Diamondbacks, so we're now in a place where, hey, we're also looking over our shoulder and not just looking at the teams in front of us. Because unfortunately, the Diamondbacks have gone 8-7 over their last 15 games, whereas the Phillies and the Padres have both gone 11-4. 3 of those games that the Phillies won were against the Brewers, the Padres swept a series against the Brewers. That really hurt because you needed the Padres need to lose games against good teams and also hopefully against bad teams, but that just didn't happen. And so you pointed that series right there. And then the Diamondbacks losing 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. And you look at them not sweeping the Reds. You look at them putting up pretty dreadful performances against Boston or not getting a sweep over the Braves, who aren't playing very well right now. And you just look at these games where you're a game or two away and could be right in this thing with the Padres and with the Phillies, but unfortunately, Diamondbacks just haven't been playing their best baseball over the last 15 games. With that being said, there is some hope that the Diamondbacks could go on a run in September because while Michael Soroka is on the injured list, it's hopeful that he'll be back quickly. Ketel Marte could be back hopefully at the beginning of September. And Corbin M. effing Burns could be back at the beginning of September as well. He's facing live batters right now. Sounds like he'll get to pitch this weekend in a minor league game. Zach Gallen is throwing bullpens right now. He's a guy that could come back and we've seen guys come back from injury and pitch well, and we've seen guys come back from injury and pitch terribly. Maybe Gallen can flip the script for the last half month of the season. But there's Lourdes Gurriel down in AAA right now trying to figure things out. He hasn't hit very well, and there's no need to rush Gurriel back until you get him the necessary at-bats and until he gets back into a rhythm right now. I would assume he will take Max Kepler's place on the team once he is eventually ready to be back. But even if Gurriel comes back, there's no telling how much playing time he's even going to get because Jordan Lawlar and Ryan Waldschmidt and Lars Nootbaar are kind of the three guys that they're playing in two spots right now at center field and left field, with obviously Corbin Carroll in right field. So there's reinforcements coming. We're so close to Corbin Burns pitching in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform again. Just hopefully less than 10 days away, ideally. And then if Soroka can come back in September and Ryan Nelson can come back eventually, maybe you're looking at a team that can win 10 of their last 12 games and electrify the baseball world and come back and kamikaze the Padres at the very end of the season. Maybe. All right. That was our baseball talk. That was talking baseball. That was talking snakes. Talking snacks. I want to talk some snacks, that's for sure. The Arizona Cardinals lost 34-13 to the Dallas Cowboys on Saturday night. And the main issue that this Cardinals team had on Saturday and is going to have the entire season starts and maybe ends with defensive coordinator Nick Rallis. Now let's get into the stats. The Cardinals allowed the Cowboys to score 34 points. Joe Milton looked like a Hall of Fame quarterback. He was 9 of 13 for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. And while he looked good, a lot of it was just receivers getting open. We saw Jaden Blue have Camden Brown have 2 receptions for 77 yards. One of those was a 70-yard almost touchdown. We saw Jonathan Mingo have a 53-yard catch. We saw Zach Kuntz have a 25-yard reception. We saw tight end Luke Schoonmaker have a 19-yard reception. So it was a lot of explosive plays, and you only get that many explosive plays when you have guys running wide open all over the field. Now, you also had Jaden Blue have 15 carries and have a rush for 15 yards. Malik Davis had a 13-yard rush. You had Phil Maffa have a 15-yard rush. So the the Arizona Cardinals gave up a lot of explosive plays to the Cowboys' second string guys. Now, were we playing Budda Baker and Will Johnson and all of those guys? No. But we did have quite a few of R2s playing, which is not something that we should be excited about. Like we had Ketel Clark playing, we had Sean Murphy Bunting playing, we had Dadrian Taylor Demerson playing, who got hurt. We had Cody Simon playing, we had Denzel Burke playing, Darius Robinson got some snaps. BJ Ojulari played a little bit as well. We saw Eku Leota, who's likely to make the roster. We saw him playing. Keaton Crawford as well. Like, the Cardinals played a lot of their twos, and even a couple of these guys might be ones. Like Denzel Burke might be our starting corner. Andrew Billings might be our starting nose tackle. Darius Robinson might be a starting tackle, defensive tackle as well. So there's a lot to be concerned about for this Arizona Cardinals, which also gave up 33 points to the Panthers. Now, obviously, this is preseason, so we're not seeing the fully formed version of this defense. And they only gave up 14 points to the Raiders, but the Ravens did score, I believe, on their first 2 touchdown drives. And speaking of this Cowboys game, if the Cowboys convert on 4th and 1, this game is even uglier. This game might be a 41-13 bloodbath. And if Rallis had a history of good defenses with the Arizona Cardinals, we probably wouldn't be freaking out about it. We'd be saying, oh, it's just preseason, right? But here's what Rallis has done with the Cardinals defense the last 3 seasons. 28.7 points per game, which ranked 29th in the NFL. In 2024, when the Cardinals went 8-9, the defense was 15th and they gave up 22.3 points per game. Not great, but not horrible. But then in the 2023 season, defense was ranked 31st and gave up 26.8 points per game. They had a record of 4-13. So defense has been quite the struggle for Rallis. A lot of people, myself included, were surprised that Rallis was retained. Now, the argument, I guess, at the time, if you were thinking positively about it, was, hey, there will be some continuity, which will help the defense. Maybe all the guys, when they get back and healthy, they'll be able to finally play Nick Rallis' system and buy in. But from what we've seen in preseason so far, it doesn't look like this Cardinals defense is going to be very good. Who knows if this Cardinals defense is that talented? I don't think it's super talented. You can look at Budda Baker, top 100 player, obviously. You can look at Will Johnson and say, hey, hopefully you're a 1 cornerback in the NFL going forward in your career. You can look at Walter Nolan and say, man, this guy should be a Pro Bowl player, could be an All-Pro one day. But you look at a lot, and Josh Sweat. Let's not forget about Josh Sweat, who is on the PUP list. Hopefully he returns. Maybe he gets traded. I'm not sure. But you look at a lot of other players on this team, and there's not a bevy of talent on the defensive side of the football. And to go along with that, even if there was, I don't know if they'd get maximized by Nick Rallis. If there is a coach on the staff that's going to get fired at some point mid-season, it's going to be Nick Rallis, because I think that this Cardinals defense is doomed. I think I would say there's probably no way they finish higher than 27th this season in scoring defense. Now, some of those metrics can kind of get skewed if you have high turnover. If the Cardinals are a high turnover team this year, and Brissett or Minshew or Becker out there throwing interceptions, and the Cardinals are defending a bunch of short fields, like, that makes your scoring defense way worse. It does. And there's other stats that we can look at, and maybe on another episode I'll do a deep dive, but we're 50 minutes into this podcast, so it's not worth boring you with the nitty-gritty details right now, other than to say this Cardinals defense is going to be bad. Buckle up. if the Cardinals are going to win games this year, it's because their offensive skill position players are awesome. It means Marvin Harrison takes a step. It means Michael Wilson is consistent. It means Shea McBride is again the best tight end in football. And it means that the running back room of Jeremiah Love, James Conner, and Tyler Algier is really stinking good, and the offensive line is good enough. If the Cardinals are winning games, that's why. It's not going to be because they're holding teams to 14 points and scoring 17. It's going to be because the Cardinals are scoring 30 to 35 points and hanging on for dear life as the other team only scores 28 to 31. It's probably unlikely, and if I had to guess what the Cardinals are going to do this season, let's look at their schedule real quick right now. They play the Chargers. That could be a team that puts up a lot of points on the Cardinals. Seahawks, that could be a team that puts up a lot of points. 49ers. Don't know if they'll put up a lot of points, but I do think that they could be pretty efficient against this defense. Giants, not sure. Lions could really rack up some points. Then you play at the Rams. If Nick Rallis gives up a 40 spot to the Lions, gets dominated by the Seahawks and the 49ers, and maybe even the Chargers, we're looking at Nick Rallis as getting fired perhaps after that Lions game or after playing at the Rams in October. So if I had to guess, I'm circling that Rams game and saying, hey, let's evaluate where the defense is at right now. And if it's bad, I think that means Nick Rallis is gone. And I won't feel bad about saying goodbye. And hopefully Mike LaFleur and whoever the next GM of the Arizona Cardinals is at the end of the season can find a good defensive coordinator, and we can draft some good defensive talent. We can get some talent to sign in free agency and turn this defense around going forward for the future. But it's not going to be anytime soon, or at least anytime this season. Okay, let's get to the Phoenix Suns portion of the podcast. Tyrese Haliburton brought up one of the most painful draft decisions in Phoenix Suns history over the last week because he said he wanted to be a Phoenix Sun.
We were calling Phoenix, because y'all need a PG.
You and D-Book?
I'm like, let me come look. And they were like, we're drafting a power forward.
All right. So here's what we know about that draft. Tyrese Haliburton was projected to be a top 5-ish and was looked at as perhaps a top 5 to 10-ish talent in the draft. Then Haliburton fell. Phoenix was at 10. Maybe they thought Haliburton is going to get drafted way higher than where we're at, and we're not that interested in trading up for him. But then he fell. And instead of doing what good teams do, which is drafting the best player available regardless of fit, the Phoenix Suns drafted Jalen Smith, power forward out of Maryland, to hopefully one day be the starting power forward or backup center alongside DeAndre. But here's the thing. I don't know if that was actually true, because everything that's ever been reported about why the Suns didn't take Haliburton is that Haliburton didn't want to go to the Suns. Monty Williams says according to Monty Williams, the Suns were interested in Haliburton, but Haliburton and his team didn't seem that interested in going to Phoenix. Well, what Tyrese Haliburton said is that he and his team were trying to get to Phoenix. But here's what I don't know. Here's what I don't know. That's so frustrating. Here's what I don't know, right? 2 days before the draft, the Suns traded for Chris Paul. So maybe the entire draft process, Haliburton is correct in saying, yeah, we were trying to get Phoenix to take us. But then maybe things changed on draft day because the Suns had Chris Paul. But even then, you bring in Tyrese Haliburton to be Chris Paul's backup. Heck, they could have even played at the same time. You bring in Tyrese Haliburton to be Chris Paul's backup for a couple seasons. And then you can let Chris go, and you don't have to worry as much about it giving him a big extension, which the Suns did. You don't have to worry as much about Chris Paul falling off in the playoffs because you have Tyrese Haliburton as the point guard. And the Phoenix Suns win an NBA championship if they draft Tyrese Haliburton. If everything plays out the same way and the Suns have Tyrese Haliburton in the NBA Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks instead of Jalen Smith, I think the Phoenix Suns win an NBA championship. Not only do they win an NBA championship, could they have two? Because everyone wants to play with Book. Everyone wants to play with Tyrese Haliburton. Could you imagine? I don't think there's a better backcourt in the NBA. And those two guys would complement each other very well. Do I necessarily believe Tyrese Haliburton saying that he and his team wanted to go to Phoenix so badly on draft night? He said it, so I guess I have to take him at his word, but I believe 60% of me believes it. 40% of me thinks he's, just saying that so that he doesn't, trash on another team, right? Maybe he wanted it, but his agent didn't think it was a good idea, so he kind of put the kibosh on him going to Phoenix. But there's so many what ifs in recent Phoenix Suns draft history, and they're all super painful. But this one might be the worst because it was so clearly obvious that Tyrese was the best prospect available in that 2020 draft. And it was difficult because it was during COVID and we didn't have the combine, and it was James Jones's second draft at the helm of the Suns. And so while he was an NBA pro for a long time, it was only his second draft. We've heard about how the Suns just didn't have the scouting department resources that a lot of other NBA teams had. So maybe they just had a couple guys that were out on Tyrese Haliburton. Maybe they just didn't like the jump shot, didn't think it would translate at an NBA level. I don't know why the Suns didn't take Tyrese Haliburton. But in the moment, they should have taken him. I think that was pretty much accepted among at least NBA media. NBA media loved Tyrese Haliburton. I mean, I think Bill Simmons would have given up one of his two children to have Tyrese Haliburton play on the Boston Celtics. There were notable people who were in love with Tyrese Haliburton, but the Suns were one of them. And it's one of the many decisions that they've made over the last decade that is going to haunt this franchise for the next 10 years. Because Tyrese Haliburton, is he going to win a championship in Indiana? I don't know, but if he was on the Phoenix Suns 2020, they would have at least one NBA championship. Phoenix Suns would have at least one NBA championship if they had Tyrese Haliburton. And hearing Tyrese talk about it on a podcast this last week, it hurts because Phoenix is a place where one, we've had some incredible point guards, and he would have continued that long line of Chris Paul, Steve Nash, Kevin Johnson, Jason Kidd, Stephon Marbury, while controversial, really good point guard. We've had so many good point guards as Suns fans. We've had so many good point guards. And man, what if Tyrese was that next guy? I mean, we also could have drafted De'Aaron Fox or Jamal Murray in other drafts as well. So, I mean, there's just a litany of good point guards that the Suns just didn't draft. It's so frustrating because there's so many good point guards that the Suns could have. And now you look at the roster, and as much as I love Colin Gillespie, what if we had Tyrese? What if we had De'Aaron Fox? What if we had Jamal Murray? What if we had, and let's be honest, like Tyrese Maxey went in that same draft. He went in that same draft. He was at 20. I don't know. There's a bunch of good guards in that draft. So many good guards. I mean, Tyrese, let's look and see. Oh yeah, Tyrese Maxey 121. And then Emmanuel quickly went at 25. Peyton Pritchard went at 26. Jaden McDaniels went at 28. Desmond Bain went at 30. Gosh. It's not just Tyrese. Devin Vassell was at 11. It's not just Tyrese, although Tyrese is the one that hurts me the most because he was so obviously perfect, like perfect point guard prospect. There's so many guys in that draft that you look at and say, man, if they were on the Phoenix Suns instead of Jalen Smith for that 3-year run, could have been so much better. When the Suns trade for Kevin Durant, maybe Tyrese Haliburton's in that deal, but that means they get to keep maybe both Cam and Mikel. Definitely one of those guys for sure. Maybe you let DeAndre Ayton go in free agency and say, hey, we'll make this center thing work because we have Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Tyrese Haliburton. Maybe the Suns have leverage over Chris Paul in contract negotiations and they don't have to give him as big of a deal. Maybe they can, trade Chris Paul a couple seasons in and get some better return on value than Bradley Beal, who ultimately sunk this Phoenix Suns franchise. I mean, there's so many different avenues that we could go down. If it's Tyrese Haliburton, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, name a okay forward prospect plus a good center, like can that team win a championship? Do the Suns win a championship in 2023 when they play Denver? Because let's be honest, you take that exact same team, but you throw in a healthy Tyrese Haliburton. You throw in a healthy Tyrese Haliburton on that team instead of Chris Paul's very old and injured body. Do the Suns win a championship that season? They certainly have even more offensive firepower. This one hurts. And even if Tyrese is lying, there's a knife in my heart that just keeps twisting and twisting and twisting the more and more I think about it. And so I have to make myself happy. And the thing that's going to make me happy today, got new pair of books. My first pair of book twos. Hopefully these shoes are awesome and they won't be my last pair of book twos. I have 3 pairs of book ones, but ooh, are y'all seeing these? These are the Sunburst shoes. Oh, baby. Would you look at these? I like this, the translucent bottoms. Not sure I love those. Hopefully these, keep their grip. Look at this. Oh, so stiff. Hopefully the court feel. The thing that I'm most looking forward to about these, and I know these books have been out for a minute, but this is my first pair. I really hope that the court feel is better because in the book ones, it's hard to truly get that same court feel that you get in other basketball shoes. I do appreciate that these look more like a basketball shoe, I should say. The fact that they look pretty similar to Kobe Protro's and what Book's played in for most of his career, that's really good. Oh, look at these. It's going to be a good week. I'm going to get into the gym, get some shots up, work on my game. You know what it is. Probably just going to wear them every time I podcast for a little while too, just because they're so sick. And how can you not feel good in a new pair of books? So thank you for watching this live stream, or if you're listening to this in podcast form, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe or leave a review and follow the show wherever you can. If you watch some of these videos on Instagram, please go subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're listening, please go to YouTube and show us some support there. I'm going to start posting more social media things. Can't wait to see what I can do in these bad boys, which someone who probably has like a 25-inch vertical right now, there's not a whole lot I'm going to be able to do in these, but I'm going to feel like the man in these shoes. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on the AZ Sports Podcast. Diamondbacks, let's go get 2 out of 3 against the Cubs.